Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Subnet Show. I am your host, Gabriel Cardona, and I am joined, as always, by the man with the most cats in crypto, Connor Daly. What is up, man?
Not much, Gabriel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, man. Just so much exciting stuff going on. A lot of stuff coming into focus. I'm going to ETH Denver next week. I'm going to be presenting on Avalanche at ETH Denver. That's going to be exciting. And then also going to Barcelona in March. And so just on top of all the amazing stuff that's always going on, got those things coming into focus. How about you?
I did book my plane ticket today to Barcelona.
Yes, me too. We're doing a live show, the Subnet show there as well. Tentatively, we'll see. Nothing's until it happens, but tentatively we will be doing a live Subnet show, so hopefully you guys are going to be there. So today we have a very special guest, a person who has now been officially bumped into a friends of the show category, having made a repeat appearance. Ladies and gentlemen, we have co-founder of Trader Joe, Cryptofish.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Glad
to be back.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. Appreciate it.
Our favorite aquatic degen returning to the show.
Yeah, so man, just first off, out of the gates, have to give you mad respect and props for the crazy growth that Trader Joe seems to be seeing. Number one, it seems like you guys ship every single day, and you guys have like an amazing product roadmap that's your ecosystem is just really coming into focus in a big way. So do you have any metrics or anything you can share just with how fast you guys are growing? Like, how big is your team now? TVL, traffic to your site, anything at all? Just give us a sense of how fast things are going.
Yeah. When was the last time I was here? It was like a couple months ago, right? Like October, I think.
Yeah, it was like end of the summer, I think, something like that, or early fall. I'm trying to find the real episode. Your episode actually, just real quick aside, is currently number 4 all time on our by views, October 11th. And
October 11th,
yeah,
okay.
So it's definitely one of our most popular early episodes. So yeah, we're excited to get you back on so we can do our own growth hacking.
That was the day that Banker Joe was launched, and I'll think about it. Yeah, I mean, since then, it's, back then it was madness. I think our team size was about a third of what it is now. And we were just doing everything from, well, I was doing like everything from smart contracts, front end, to marketing, business development. Now I would say that the team is much more, like, people are more focused in what they're doing. So, we have smart contract guys doing smart contracts, front end guys doing front end guys, BD guys doing BD, marketing guys doing marketing. We've scaled up a lot actually in the past 2 months. People were wondering like, hey, what's going on? Because after Banker Joe, there was a bit of a lull, but we were actually just like scaling hardcore behind the scenes, interviewing people, training them up and stuff. But yeah, I'd say things are good. Obviously, there's been a bit of a dip in the past month, and sometimes community sentiment rides on price action, but I would say as a team and as a project, we're stronger than ever. We're now moving past the fork stage. So, Banker Joe was a fork of Compound, and now we're moving past that and going on to what we call the innovation stage. So just like really creating new products from scratch, and Rocket Joe is one of them, and we have many more to come out this year.
So how has your role shifted? So you said you're doing less of the development. Are you just being CEO now, just doing all the management, or what's your day-to-day like now?
Actually, people will be surprised. I don't actually make a lot of high-level decisions. We have some core members who have been with us for a while, and everyone brings something different to the table. So we have like, I would say Murloc makes a lot of the more high-level product strategy decisions. I'm just here to support people and to let people do their best work. I don't actually do any coding nowadays, which is nice, but I still review a lot of PR. So we have, I think, smart contracts wise, we have 2 or 3 engineers, and they basically bang out the code, and I'm just there to make sure that the code is readable and pick up any bugs that I sometimes, if I'm able to find them. But other than that, just like, I would say just supporting people, helping them out, making sure that they can do their best work. I think it's interesting because I think back in October, I don't know, I feel like as a first-time founder, I don't know if most founders go through this, but I definitely went through this. There was definitely a bit of scared to let go of the reins a little bit, like you want to scale up as a team, you want to delegate stuff, but you're also scared that, people that you hire, these new people, they can't do the same job. So there was a bit of hesitancy to kind of delegate jobs to different people, but it got to a point where it was just becoming like absolute madness for Murloc and I. So I'll say in the past few months, like a lot of the stuff, a lot of like big decisions, like, managing emissions and stuff, like we just let, the experts do it now. And we're just there to kind of step in once in a while, say, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's not do this.
So has your life gotten crazier or less crazy since October?
Oh, definitely less crazy.
Yeah.
First of all, I quit my job. So I quit my job like just before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I've definitely become less stressed. And I've just been focusing on like my mental health, especially after the new year. So I put on a fuck ton of weight actually since Trader Joe started. So I just been focusing on like, waking up, running, doing some gym and stuff every day, and just feeling like mentally focused. And it's important, I think, for this industry.
Yeah. I definitely went through a lot of the same stuff. I'm not necessarily a founder, but I do have kind of a team that I work with at Ava Labs that I kind of started, and it was definitely a journey to bring on people sometimes too late when I was already like in way over my head, and then trying to get over the fear of delegating and getting to a point where like I really should delegate everything. That should be my mindset of like delegate first and then occasionally pick tasks for myself so that I don't get overwhelmed, because I am kind of the person that like gets super obsessed about the product and like is kind of a perfectionist about it and just like wants everything done exactly the right way. And you don't want to outsource a task and then have it come back 90% right. You want that last 10%. But then once you can get over that, your life gets a lot better. You sleep a lot more, you work a lot less hours, and you don't have your girlfriend, fiance, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, banging down your door saying, why haven't I seen you in a week?
Yeah, I suffer from the same thing. I find it very hard to delegate. And it's simply because of what you just said, Connor. Like, I know that I can do it, and I know I'll put in that last extra 10%. And I don't feel bad about myself putting in extra hours or coming in on the weekend and making it happen. You know what I mean? But it's challenging for me to just put that on the feet of somebody else. But even more than anything, just I know that I can do it, and I know the level of quality that I want. And it's hard for me to trust that other people will get to that level, but that's part of delegating, and that's part of growing with your job, and then ultimately being able to change your roles and leverage your past skills into some type of management role. So yeah, I think that answers your question, Cryptofish. We both experienced that. So it must be
Yeah,
I've also gained weight too. So
I think everyone has actually. It's funny. I've been talking
Yeah.
to some other founders. They're like, yeah, I used to be like jacked, going to the gym, like squatting like more than 200 pounds, and now I'm just like a slob.
Yeah.
Like a recurring theme.
We have a group of us. We're trying to get fit for Barcelona,
Yeah, I think after the new year, everyone's like, okay, I have a goal now. I'm gonna get out the house for once and see people. Like,
Yeah.
I need to look somewhat presentable.
That's a good goal, man. Health is the real wealth. It's a cliche, but it's absolutely true, man. And you don't
Yeah.
really value your health until you don't have it, right? Until you're sick or your neck hurts or something, and then you're like, damn, it was nice not having a neck pain. I remember those days. No neck pain. Yeah, health is where it's at. So I was looking at your website and I saw some pretty inspiring stuff I wanted to maybe at least touch on, and we'll see if we can strike a conversation. So I'm just going to read it straight up. It said, you already said the core line, which was, dang, where's it at? Oh yeah, we fork, we build, we fork, we built, and now we innovate. I presume that was talking about what, Banker Joe?
No, that's Rocket Joe. So
Oh, Rocket Joe.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let me read this next paragraph. This is the one I wanted to read. So it says, "We are committed to driving the continued expansion of the Avalanche ecosystem. Trader Joe will become a hub for DeFi innovation and an ambassador for NFT and Metaverse culture on the Avalanche blockchain. And then it says, to support this ambition, we're currently in the process of doubling our engineering, research, and quant teams. And so you also mentioned it again right here. Trader Joe will nurture and accelerate the emerging consumer trend of Metaverse. So I myself am very interested in this idea of a Metaverse. I want to at least touch on that. And I wanted to say, like, is it possible to, is there a Metaverse tech stack? You know what I mean? Can I make is the Metaverse a thing that I can start making? Like I'm writing apps for the Metaverse. Is the Metaverse like virtual reality, augmented reality, and NFTs? Like I want your thought on this. So obviously Trader Joe is, I don't know if you wrote that particular body copy yourself, but obviously Trader Joe is interested in the Metaverse. So what are your thoughts on the Metaverse, and how is Trader Joe going to work with it?
I think, I think 2022 is going to be a huge year for Metaverse NFTs. And why? Because it is really like DeFi is a little bit too big brain for, mainstream people. NFTs, people get it, people get it, they understand it. It's like something you can see, it's more tangible. And there's a reason why a lot of big brands are now getting into it, like Adidas is one, Nike as well. And I don't, it's funny because over the holidays, I was having dinner with some family friends and stuff, and like people know about crypto, but when you start talking about DeFi, their face just goes blank. But then they'll be like, "Oh, NFTs! I read about that," and that's something they probably don't even know what NFTs mean, but they just know this word NFT, and they can put a picture to it and realize what it is. Right? DeFi is a little too abstract. So I think NFTs is, well, it's already booming. It's boomed already, but I think it's going to get even bigger. And yeah, actually, the NFT ecosystem hasn't really picked off yet in Avalanche. And we just thought to ourselves, you know what, like, yeah, we are DEX, but we brand ourselves as a one-stop trading platform. And if you look at a lot of sexes, they're actually now creating their own NFT marketplace. Gemini did that with Nifty Gateway. You have Coinbase now doing one. FTX is doing NFTs, and we've kind of modeled ourselves around FTX. We think that out of all the sexes, they are like probably one of the best sexes out there in terms of experience, and it just makes a lot of sense. We want to be like the decentralized version of FTX, and they're also doing NFTs. Why shouldn't we do it as well?
And then in the context of the actual Metaverse, I'm trying to define a Metaverse tech stack in my mind. I'm trying to make this a bit more concrete, like the Internet of Things. To me, the Internet of Things is like MQTT. There's an actual technology, a protocol that you can say Internet of Things devices speak over MQTT. What is the Metaverse? Connor, jump in as well. I'm interested. What do you guys think? If you had to define the Metaverse.
Yeah, I'll say something here. So actually, if people are interested in the Metaverse, I highly recommend Matthew Ball has written an amazing 10-part series overviewing every part of the Metaverse stack and what the technological challenges are and what the state of the art is. And so, it starts all the way kind of like at the hardware of VR, AR, and, what are the bandwidth requirements? What are the compute requirements? What are the silicon requirements?
And the interface, and
to kind of take
more realistic, right? Right now it's just visual and audio, but can you interface with your brain directly? Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, and then there's all these wars of where is the compute going to live? Is it going to live on your face? Is it going to live in the cloud? If it lives in the cloud, is there enough bandwidth to actually bring you high enough fidelity solutions to actually have the experiences that science fiction thinks is possible? And then it kind of goes all the way up to the layers of kind of software, platforms, payments.
What are the layers? What is
marketplaces?
What can you remember? So as much as you can remember, I'm really interested.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the big thing is the platforms when it comes to the tech stack of you have Epic Games. They're probably the biggest in this space right now. There's also kind of Facebook, and you have all these people who are trying to create these.
No, I'm literally asking what are people writing? Is it web apps? Is it like what is the technology?
I mean, I think it's mostly
because I know that there's that Gather
Unreal,
there's Gather Town or whatever, right? And that's just a web app. That's a web app with but that's going to ultimately be like a VR experience. It's the precursors of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's interesting.
So I think I would say that it depends what you're talking about. If if you're talking about like the metaverse, like VR, AR experience, like I think the state of the art right now is Unreal Engine renders and games and experiences, things like that.
And
Is
so,
Gather Town rendered in Unreal, even though it's like a 2D pixelated thing?
I have no idea how it's run or hosted for webs. I'm not a game developer, so this is just a severe blind spot in my knowledge. So I could definitely misspeak here.
so how big do you think the metaverse is going to be?
I think it's huge, you know. I think I mean, what does it also mean to be the metaverse, right? I think it can go, I think the rabbit hole runs really, really deep at this thing.
Yeah, I agree, of course. Yeah.
You know,
me,
like,
go ahead.
yeah, like
No, go
most
ahead.
people are doing GameFi right now, and you know, that's cool. But is it the metaverse? I feel like the metaverse is more just about, you know, having a new identity, a new avatar in this whole new world, right? And you do the things that you would do in the real world, but then you do it in this new world, right? So it's not really a game, because in the game you have a storyline, you have a beginning, a middle, end, and there's a goal. I feel like the metaverse, there is no goal. It's just, you're just there to, you know, to be someone else, I guess. So I mean, we actually thought about this because we're creating our own NFTs called Joepegs, and we've also just researched how far we want to go with this, with these NFTs. We don't want to be just profile pics. So, you know, we thought about, okay, should we create a game? And yeah, games are cool, but you know, I think in order to make a game, the game has to be fun to play. It can't be a dumbed down crypto version. Not really a fan of that. And you know, really good games, they take a long time to create. They take like anywhere from 1 to 3 years, and you're probably going to spend anywhere from like $5 to $15 million. Or you can do something like Metaverse, like Gather Town. So we actually use Gather Town now for meetings, and it's really cool. I think it's a really cool interface of, you know, interacting with, having a person interacting with another person on screen, whilst interfacing, you know, with your mouse, keyboard, with voice, with webcam. I kind of like that. But then there's also this whole virtual reality thing, right? Like 3D and stuff. So, you know, I could see people doing that in the future. Yeah, like I said, I think the metaverse, the rabbit hole just runs really, really deep.
Yeah, of course, I absolutely agree. And I think it's not interesting is not the right word. It's worth noting that Facebook, of course, has rebranded their company Meta, and they're making the super play on this. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if they are able to capture the word in a way that they're trying to, you know what I'm saying? They know metaverse is going to be big. And so they're trying to brand it to where in the future, when anybody says, did you see that shit on the metaverse? Somehow the people are thinking they're talking about Facebook or something. Like they're making a big play there. I mean, I at the current moment, I don't think that it's stuck. Like I don't perceive it as being successful at this moment. It doesn't seem to me like the metaverse community or the people who are building the metaverse are rallying behind and around Facebook right now. So I just think that's also kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most successful metaverse properties right now are like Fortnite and Roblox, and these kind of gaming communities that started as game, but now are just kind of like platforms where you can like coexist and have a concert and do kind of crazy stuff. And, you know, even Fortnite is, you know, primarily a game, but that game has evolved, and there's tons of, you know, Gen Z, like super young kids who just hang out in Fortnite and will talk to their friends in lobbies and stuff. And
absolutely,
I think, you know, I don't think the metaverse is going to look like we think in Ready Player One, where people are just kind of like hanging out and chatting. Because I think people have tried that and it's just never really taken off so much. But I think, you know, the Fortnite model seems to be very successful of like, you have a purpose to kind of like go there in the first place. And then everybody goes there for this one thing, and then you hang out. You know, you're all going to do your Trader Joe trades or whatever, and then they're all hanging out in the lobby together, or whatever it is. I do want to point out, I mean, I saw a really cool thing in the last couple of days. I think this is maybe created by the Penguin Finance people. I'm not sure if it's them. It's specifically Peng family or Avox Peng family on Twitter. They actually created a Gather Town like simulation for using a couple dApps on Avalanche. Pangolin, Benki, and maybe a couple others, where you actually, it makes it look like a bank where you like walk in and you can go to like different tables to access like different web pages. It was really cool. I'll put a link in the description.
That's
yeah,
great.
I think I've seen that. Yeah, it's really cool. It's like Gather Town, but like, yeah. I was trying to get access to it, but couldn't really find it. But yeah, I'd love to check it out more.
Definitely a cool tweet.
Nice. Okay, sweet. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for exploring that idea. I saw Metaverse and it piqued my interest. So now I think we can kind of get back on track, which is the roadmap. So it seemed to me like there were sort of three, we've already touched on all of them, but perhaps we can just go back over them a little bit. So it seems to me like there's three major topics. There's Rocket Joe. So it's the DeFi 2.0 of the sex listing. There's Joenomics V2. So stake Joe for Rocket Joe allocation credits or stablecoin revenue share. And then there's NFT Marketplace with the Joepegs. So what's up with Rocket Joe? I have some bullet points here from your website I can read, or if you just want to freestyle off the top of your head, whatever you prefer.
Sure. So Rocket Joe is a liquidity bootstrapping platform. And the idea is that it's not really, people think of it like a launch pad, I guess. They hear the name Rocket Joe and then they think launch and then launch pad. The difference between launch pads and Rocket Joe is that launch pads, they have a set token price, right? So they'll sell like 1 million tokens for 10 cents each. Rocket Joe is different. So a project will auction off a bunch of tokens and Rocket Joe will facilitate price discovery instead. So it depends on how much interest there is, i.e. how many AVAX people deposit into the launch. And then after the whole launch is over, the final amount of AVAX is then paired with the number of tokens to create this LP, and that ratio is the final price. So the reason why we created this thing is because back in starting from October, like past 3 months, there's just been a lot of launches, and what they do is they'll go through a launch pad like Avalanche, for example, and then they'll do the IDO, and eventually after the IDO is finished, the project will have to seed a liquidity pool on Trader Joe. And what happens is the second that they seed that LP, it just gets sniped up by bots, and they just buy up, the initial liquidity, and then a few minutes later, they broadcast it on Twitter, and retail comes in, and they buy it at an inflated price, and then an hour or 2 hours later, like the bots just dump on them to make a quick buck like that. And it's caused a lot of drama. Like I remember there was an issue with Platypus when they first seeded liquidity. And we just felt like, this is a recurring theme. We should do something about it. And this whole idea, like we make sex listings a big deal, but when no one talks about DEX listings, right? Like what is a DEX listing? You just create an LP. And we felt like there could be a new way to formalize this. And to us, that was basically the whole ethos behind Rocket Joe.
So yeah, that's really interesting because I'd never actually thought about it like that, but that's actually a really good point. And I think one thing I just want to kind of emphasize for the listeners, we've talked about this before. We had Mark from Avalanche on, and we talked about this, and I've written Twitter threads on this in the past, but basically it's very hard to do a fair token launch for some definition of fair. And there's kind of a difference. Like it's like the IDOs, the Avalanche, they solve the problem of distributing the token at a fixed price. But that fixed price is still not necessarily the price discovery, true value of those tokens. And so even if you're able to distribute the tokens from the core team or the Genesis smart contract, you still have to bring them into the market somehow, even if the ICO buyers are the kind of the first holders rather than the team and the smart contract itself. And so it's that process of price discovery that's still really painful that kind of like Rocket Joe aims to solve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think price discovery, it's tough. Like the whole point is to facilitate natural price discovery and get participants involved in building liquidity, but it's also just a very game theoretic field you're playing.
Yeah,
right?
Ideally you want to be able to do it so that the people who are most technically skilled aren't able to just quickly pump and dump on somebody and retail doesn't get screwed, and so that hopefully hopefully everybody pays the same price per token, and there's nobody who's like just cleaning up 90% of the profit and leaving everybody else holding the empty bag.
Precisely, yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of Rocket Joe, really. And one of the nice things about Rocket Joe as well is that, from the project's point of view, when you seed an LP, usually you also need the other side, which is usually AVAX, right? And that's also a problem. Like, where do they source that AVAX from? Sometimes they have their own capital and they seed it themselves, or they have to, raise it privately through VCs or angel investors, but it has to come from somewhere. And one of the nice things about Rocket Joe is that, they don't have to do some kind of private deal to get that AVAX. They can do it through the public, and the public will then, find the true price of the token at the same time, building liquidity. And I think when projects want to, when they list their LP on Trader Joe, the most important thing for them is, I mean, obviously they want token price to do well, but they also want to have significant depth in liquidity. That is very important, right? Like, you can have fantastic token price, but if you don't have liquidity to support it, it becomes a bit of a tricky endeavor.
And so how has it been so far? Has it been successful? Is it live now?
Yeah, you guys had your first launch, right?
We had our first launch with Heroes NFT. If I had to be honest, it wasn't as successful as people were hoping it to be. I do think that there are certain things that we could have managed better, but I also feel like, with this first launch, I think a lot of it will be education. So people come to Rocket Joe with certain expectations. They think, oh, this is like a launch pad. And, in most launch pads, if you get in an allocation, you can make a quick 5x, 10x, or even 20x, depending on the market, right? And it's almost like guaranteed profit. I feel like people who come in with the expectation of Rocket Joe and expecting like, oh, I'm gonna make profit, it's not gonna be that easy. The difference here is that there is no set token price. And, with these IDOs, for example, like, it's, you wanna be early, but we're not really an IDO, so it's not really the same thing. I feel like it will take people time to figure out how to use Rocket Joe. And it might take a few launches, but I'm sure we'll get there. I personally believe it's a very needed product for both retail and projects. And it will take a few tries, but we'll get there for sure.
How do people use it? I mean,
so basically,
how would somebody launch on it, basically?
So if a project wants to launch on it, they just contact us, they reach out to us. And right now it's permissioned. So we'll, we want to do the due diligence to make sure that, they're a good project and they're worth launching.
Do you have a roadmap right now? You guys have people on deck?
We do, yeah. So we just did our first launch with Heroes NFT. We do have another one secured. We'll be announcing it in the next few days. And we do have a lot of interest from other people. So, our aim is to have one at least once a week, probably twice a week.
And then as users, how do they interact?
So once the launch is live, how it works is that there's different phases. So I'll take the Heroes NFT as an example. For the first 24 hours, you can deposit or withdraw AVAX, and you can withdraw AVAX without any penalty fee. So you can put 10 AVAX in, and then you can also withdraw that AVAX if you feel like the price is going to be too high eventually. From the next 24 hours, you can still deposit AVAX, but there is a linearly increasing withdrawal fee. And for Heroes NFT, it was increasing, literally per second up to 20% at the end of the 24-hour mark. And then in the next 24 hours, so in the third day, you can't deposit anymore, but you can withdraw, and it's a fixed withdrawal penalty of 20%. And it's basically like a last chance for people, like, okay, you can't add any more AVAX, but if you think that the final token price is too expensive, then we're going to give you a chance to withdraw. And then once that phase is over, then the LP is created. And so there's usually a time lock involved so that, you know, users don't unwrap the LP and dump right away. So for Here's an NFT, the time lock was 7 days and it will be unlocked next Monday. And in order to incentivize them for locking it for that period of time, we also give them like 10% of the tokens as incentive. So the second that the LP is created, they can't claim it for another 7 days, but at least they can get a share of the 10% of HON tokens right away.
Very cool. Awesome, man.
Do you have any region restrictions, or is it like, are US investors allowed to participate?
Yeah, everyone, there's no KYC. It is completely open to everyone.
Nice.
Okay.
Definitely frustrating being in the United States sometimes.
Yeah.
And some of the other platforms like Avalanche do have KYC for and exclude US customers.
Yeah, so this is perfect for, you know, guys from America, for example, who can't participate in IDOs.
I did give it a thought of like, I wonder like how difficult it is to get a lawyer to set up an entity in the Cayman Islands and have them buy you know, some of these token sales on my behalf. But I'm not wealthy and sophisticated enough to do that yet.
I like that.
I'm sure there's ways around this, like friends of friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely, yeah, it depends how hard you're willing to try. I haven't reached the level of effort where I feel like, I'm ready to do this. I mean, I don't have people to do these things for me. I still have to do them myself.
Yeah.
And
it's also effort, right? So,
oh yeah.
I mean, I don't even have time to manage my own personal bags these days. So, you know, I'm like, oh, like there's probably money to be made, but I just can't be bothered.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because I feel like I actually, because I work in the ecosystem, because I, you know, talk to so many projects, I actually do have like legitimate alpha sometimes that I don't act on, even though it's just like, it's just too much trouble. I need more set it and forget it kind of things. Cause yeah, this is a thing that I thought about, is just, I didn't want my, you know, I used to not want my whole life to be crypto. Yeah. And then my whole life became crypto. I spent my free time writing Twitter threads about crypto. I'm doing a podcast about Avalanche. And it's just like, now my whole life is crypto. My fiance and I, we talk about it all the time. And now it's just like, okay, I got to take a step back because I have no.
Be a positive benefit of, there might be a positive benefit of you not acting on that alpha, and that is simply that you're not mentally invested in those projects, and you're able to be a bit less, you know, overall invested with your stress and your focus, and you're just a little bit more neutral, right? Your opinion matters in that regard because you're not biased in any way by so there's those benefits as well.
And I will say, if the SEC is watching, I don't mean insider information. I just mean being, you know, aware on the cutting edge of what I think will be successful based on past trends.
So should we be buying AVAX now?
Asymmetry.
Is that a good time to buy?
I don't comment on price.
All right. So the second part of the Trader Joe roadmap is Joenomics V2. So stake Joe for Rocket Joe allocation credits or stablecoin revenue share. And then the bullet points I have are: stake your Joe to enter the Joe ecosystem. You can then farm Stable Joe or farm Rocket Joe or do a mixture of both. Soft cooldowns implemented to encourage longer term staking. What is soft cooldown? Mechanisms in place to prevent gaming between staking options. Staking user experience enhanced to improve accessibility for new DeFi users. So what's up with Joenomics V2?
Basically, yeah, Joenomics V2. I think this is a long time coming. You know, the thing with, so our tokenomics is based off Sushi. We're almost exactly the same. The only thing that's different is that, you know, instead of 250 million supply, we have 500 million supply, but we still have XJoe, which is, you know, very exactly the same as XSushi. Now, the big criticism of Sushi tokenomics is that, you know, it's, people say it's not sustainable. It's quote unquote farm and dump token. There's no utility, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, we've been listening to the community for months now, and this is something that's been on our mind since, I would say, you know, mid-October. Tokenomics is such a difficult thing that everyone has an opinion, and it's also a lot of like recency bias. Like people say, oh, you should do this because Curve is doing it and they're doing fantastically well. And everyone has, it's more like, it's more like, there's no hard science behind tokenomics. It's more like philosophy, right? So there's always different sides debating. What we've done over the past few months is to really listen to what people want and talk about, but also just look on what is out there right now and trying to figure out the best way to do things. And one of the biggest things that people asked for is a shift towards Vnomics. So that's like the V curve, V platypus kind of tokenomics, because they say,
I don't know what
okay,
that is. Can you give me explain like I'm five, or is it not possible?
yeah, so V curve, you know, curve, right? Curve finance. So
Yes. Yeah.
V curve is like when you stake curve and you stake it for different periods of time. You can stake it anywhere from 1 week to 4 years. And the longer you stake it, the more boosted rewards you get. What does that mean? So if you don't stake your curve, you only get like the flat rate of 1x, right? But if you stake your curve and get V curve, then you can get up to 2.5 times more. I think it's like emissions or platform revenue or something like that. So the idea is like you lock it up for longer periods of time and you get more rewards. V platypus, so that's platypus finance, you know, the other stable swap on Avalanche. They also have a similar kind of mechanism, but it's not involving lockup. So instead, if you stake your platypus, you get V platypus, and having V platypus allows you to earn boosted APRs on any of the pools you stake in, which is like, you know, any of the stablecoin pools like USDC, USDT, all that kind of stuff. But the second that you unstake your platypus from V platypus, then you lose all those boosted rewards. So the whole point of these Vnomics, right? The whole point is just to make people, just to take coins out of circulation, right? So you can reduce sell pressure. So whether you actually lock it up like Curve has done it, or whether you penalize people for unstaking, which is what Platypus has done.
Is that a soft cooldown? What is a soft cooldown?
I don't know what you're talking about, actually.
Okay, yeah. It says soft cooldowns implemented to encourage longer term staking, but yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so I mean, for our VJO, for example, it's going to be very similar to Platypus. We're not going to implement a lockup. We're going to implement some kind of penalty where if you unstake, then you lose all your boosted APR and you have to earn them back again over time.
Gotcha. Okay.
How do you balance chasing the latest tokenomics trend with kind of not putting your token at risk? Because I think, you know, we've definitely seen this over the last 6 months. I mean, look at Ohm. When Ohm took off, Wonderland took off, that was the hottest thing ever. You know, there were all the Ohm forks and everybody was super confident in it until 2 months ago. And then, you know, the wall came clattering down. So I guess, how do you, I mean, and I think the real reason for this is that this field is so new. There's so little there's so little data. And so experiments just have, you know, can have very unexpected results. And it's hard to tell, you know, true positive results from like false positives, true negatives, false negatives. And, you know, we don't have the science of this. Nobody's figured this out. So I guess what's your approach to kind of balancing all those concerns?
Yeah, I would say that this is what I hate about tokenomics. Like, there's so much of it is based on narrative, right? Like, I remember when everyone was in love with Forks DeFi 2.0, they were saying, oh, you know, like DeFi 1.0 is dead. They're all farm and dump tokens. DeFi 2.0 is the future. There's no farming and dumping. It's all about protocol and liquidity, blah, blah, blah. I mean, 3 months later, it was, you know, it was still a farm and dump token. Let's be honest, right? You're staking your Ohm or Ohm fork to get this like 10-digit APY. You're basically farming, and eventually someone's going to dump, and they're going to dump them because then you realize there's profits. But for a while, people, you know, and not just like any random people, like big accounts, you know, like big influencers, they were really pushing this narrative that DeFi 2.0 has solved DeFi 1.0. I'm glad that it's finally been, people see that this is just a narrative. I mean, I don't have anything against Ohm forks, but I do hate the idea that a lot of tokenomics is based on narrative. I'm not gonna lie. So how do we approach it at Trader Joe? I would say that the one thing that we do a lot is that we don't rush into things. Sometimes that bites us in the ass because in crypto, you have to move fast. If you take more than 3 months to build something, by the time you finish building it, but it could be that whatever you're building is just not in trend anymore. And that's, timing is everything in this market. So we don't like to rush into things. We like to be thoughtful in everything we do, right? So, we recognize that there was a need to change our tokenomics, but we're like, okay, let's think carefully. Like, obviously people love V curve, right? Because out of all the DeFi 1.0 projects, like, Uniswap, Aave, and all that kind of stuff, like the curve token has performed, has actually defied, has actually been able to go up despite all the other tokens in that category going down in the past year. At the same time, so people love V curve, but we also decided, okay, who else has implemented V curve? And how have they done, right? There's been a lot of other projects. I think, Cream Finance, for example, they have ice cream. There's also Pickle Finance, they have the dill token. And then we look at, okay, some of these are kind of like Cream is a lending protocol, not really comparable to a DEX. Who else has done it? And that's DEX. And there was a couple. There was Spirit Swap, that's on Phantom. They have they call it InSpirit, which is their V curve version of Spirit. And we kind of decided, with Curve, for example, why does V curve work well with Curve? Well, the whole point of V curve is that you can vote on the emissions to go into each pool. Now, people love the idea of voting on every pool, but is it always a good thing? Do you risk emissions going to the wrong pools? Now, there's an argument, and we thought about this carefully, like in Curve, every pool is stable coin pool. So they're kind of like all the same category. But DEX on the other hand, you have different kinds of pools. You have your AVAX majors like AVAX BTC, AVAX ETH. You have your stable coin pools, and then you have like your, altcoin pools. And so a DEX is different because you have different categories, right? And the nice things about V curve, I think the reason why V curve became so popular is because, not because of V curve itself, but because you could bribe people to vote for certain pools, and that's the whole basis behind convex and bribing. I'm kind of like rambling on right now, but like we decided, okay, we like this idea, but it doesn't apply to every single pool in a DEX. It makes the most sense to us, at least, for AVAX stablecoin pools. So that's why with VJO, we're going to allow people to vote on pools, on the emissions to pools, but only for AVAX stablecoin ones. So that means AVAX USDT, AVAX USDC, AVAX MIM. People know about our drama with Wonderland, and they were claiming that we didn't give them enough missions for AVAX MIM. Well, with VJO, if Wonderland wants to come back and get more missions, they can bribe VJO holders to get more missions for AVAX MIM. And so we've kind of taken the V curve model, but adapted it to a more AMM DEX flavor.
Well, that's exciting, man. That sounds really cool. Nice work. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that, and then what that inspires, right? Who is going to do the next tweak on your model now? Somebody's going to say we were inspired by the Joe curve or something. Okay. And there's one more point on the roadmap, and it was, I think you already talked about it, NFT Marketplace, and which is also, I think Joepegs is tied in there. And so what's going on there?
Yeah, so NFT Marketplace was not something we were planning to do. So initially it was like, let's just create some NFTs. We care about branding. Branding is important. And something that we put a lot of effort into, and people love Trader Joe, the mascot, and we felt like this is a good opportunity to create some NFTs. And at first we weren't sure what to make of it. Maybe just do it for fun. It's good for marketing, good for brand awareness. And then whilst thinking about this, we're like, okay, well, we actually need to design a storefront now. like every NFT project, they have some kind of storefront for people to list their own NFTs and buy and sell, etc. And initially, it was just going to be like a storefront for the Joepeg NFTs, and then it just became a conversation like, hey, what if we extend this to allow people to list other NFTs? And eventually, the whole idea of why don't we just like create an NFT marketplace came about, right? So actually, this is been in progress since early December. And we hope to get something out before Barcelona. So the goal is to move towards like a fully fledged marketplace, i.e. something like OpenSea or LooksRare. That will take more time though, because the functionality with OpenSea is quite, there's a lot of features, for example, and there's also a lot of backend involved. So I believe they're like indexing the entire blockchain, and we're not ready to do that yet. But we hope to have a very basic MVP out before Barcelona.
Oh, very nice. So it seems like Joe is, it's no longer a DEX. It's no longer a lending protocol. You're kind of being the home for everything. And, I think, I don't remember who talks about this, but somebody says that, every startup, the way that business works, it's either bundling or unbundling of, putting a bunch of services together or kind of unpacking them. So first off, you have like Netflix, who bundles all the streaming services. Now we're kind of in the phase where people are unbundling, selling individual streaming services with individual studios. And Joe seems very much to be bundling right now.
What do you mean by bundling? You mean like going after multiple different
packaging different services into a single box? So bundling, so bundling. So, taking the lending, taking the trading, taking the NFTs, putting them all on one site and one platform, as opposed to doing them as separate apps.
Yeah, this is like, I think people talk about this a lot, especially in crypto and DeFi. It's like, are you better being a jack of all trades or a master of one, right? And I would say that history has shown that you're better off just focusing on what you're good at and being really good at it. Like Aave is really good at lending, and they are the leaders in lending. Uniswap is the leader of AMM. Trader Joe, well, we're not the leader in either of those. We kind of do everything, right? I guess the closest analogy for us is sushi. So sushi is a DEX. It is also a lending and margin trading platform. It also has its own launchpad. It also has, I believe, an NFT platform as well. So people are critical of sushi because perhaps they spread themselves too thin across too many products. Like they have a ton of products and some of them are just not working out so well. And this is actually a conversation that we had internally, I would say back in November. It's like, we want to go after these things because we do feel like there's big room to make impact in these areas in the Avalanche ecosystem. But the question is, do we risk becoming like a jack of all trades but a master of none, right? And it's easy to point to sushi and their shortcomings and say, well, we risk becoming, to end up like sushi, like spreading ourselves too thin. But in our kind of analysis of everything, like I think the whole goal of sushi was not a bad one. I think sushi, what they're failing was that sounded like they suffered from poor leadership, but also just not having the scale to do it, right? So I believe their team just isn't big enough to support all these different products. Like last I heard, they only have 2 smart contract engineers, but they're managing like literally 4 or 5 different protocols under one name. So, the whole NFT thing is very separate to DEX and lending. And at first we wanted to do it, but we were very hesitant to do it because, we're like, okay, you know what? If we're going to do this, we definitely need the people to do it. There's a good opportunity to capitalize on it, but do we have the people to do it? And at first we didn't, so we're like, no, we're not going to do it. But in the past, I would say 1 or 2 months, we've just been scaling up, on all fronts, engineers, BD, marketing, analysts, quants, etc. And I feel like now, obviously you probably need to do a little bit more recruiting, but we feel like we're at a point now where we can tackle two entirely different product lines.
Wow, very exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys are really coming together in a big way, dude. I'm really stoked for you. I can see big things for you in the future, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. It's been about an hour. Go ahead, Connor. Finish your thought there.
Yeah. So I was just kind of riffing on your previous point before we kind of start the wrap up is, just when thinking about kind of like the history of sushi. Yeah. I mean, I think they definitely dissolved due to poor team cohesion and poor leadership. But the one thing I thought that they actually always did very well was the rewards. And I think that's where they really ate Uniswap's lunch, was the yield farming aspect, and being able to just, whenever you use their platform, it's always rewards on top of rewards on top of rewards. And I feel like they were one of the first people to really do that. And they really differentiated themselves from Uniswap. Uniswap kind of did one big liquidity mining event. And then after that, I mean, they don't give out their token. Like, there's no rewards other than protocol fees. And Sushi did a really great job of incorporating that and just giving you that tease. And then once you start getting this token, then you can stake that token, get another token. And I thought that was really powerful. And I think some of the stuff that you guys do, I think some of your branding has been absolutely incredible, in addition to all the product work. But I think a lot of teams on Avalanche have done very well, but I think the Trader Joe brand in particular is one that has really struck a chord, and just the way that you have been able to get the right artists in to, I think you started out in just some of the still images and stuff, but just so many of like the animations and stuff you've created has been, super incredible, super viral, super memeable. And that it's really struck a chord. And it's just like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the core product line always that's like the number one most innovative thing, because nobody's made better DEX contracts than Uniswap. Nobody has been able to do lending better than Aave. And so you got to find different ways to differentiate. And those things aren't necessarily be better at the most obvious thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was our thesis from day one. I don't know if you remember, but like when we were launching back in June, we were, making a buzz on Twitter, and people kept on saying, why are you launching another DEX? And at the time, I think we were the 12th DEX. We were going to be the 12th DEX in Avalanche. And, you remember back in those days, there was like probably a maximum of 20 projects, right? So people were like, why are you guys doing another DEX? Like, we don't need any more DEXs. And we always felt like, yeah, we're not going to create a whole new AMM, we're not going to innovate on that front, but we felt like there's still ways to have an edge, and for us, it was user experience. We felt like, seeing the user experience on the current DEXs at the time, there was still a way for us to differentiate. And I don't know, in crypto, we always get enamored with tech, right? We're in it for the tech. And yeah, tech is exciting, don't get me wrong. Tech is what attracts people to the product, but our feeling was always it's user experience that makes people stick to the product. And I feel like that's really our edge. That's very much down to Murloc. He has a vast experience in product management, and just being able to, reduce that friction for users. For example, like things like, Sushi, I think they have a cool looking UI, but in terms of product management, there's a lot of things that you go in there, you kind of get confused, like, what is this, right? Everything's named after a Japanese food, for example. And, I think when we approached this, we were like, okay, we have to make things as simple as possible, because crypto is already super big brain. It can't be called swap.
It's also, it's funny to me that, I saw there was a good meme on Twitter today that there was kind of words that like men know and words that like women don't. Men know that women don't, and words that women know that men don't. And like a lot of the men words were like Japanese things. They're just like, oh yeah, I guess not everybody's a Japanophile. So you can't just go with like super obscure Japanese names for thing and have everybody understand. Like sometimes I forget.
Yeah, like one thing that really confused me was like onsen. They have like different yield farms, and I was kind of confused. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is, I think that's going back to what I said. Like, I think it's really important to, people always say you have to innovate on tech. There's different ways you can innovate. Innovation can come in small increments. It can come in big strides, right? And people always think of the most obvious things, like you have to create a whole new product. It has to be new smart contracts, new code. No, not necessarily. You can even innovate on marketing. We haven't seen. I don't think we've seen enough innovation in marketing, for example, in sales, in branding. A lot of that kind of stuff is still very amateur in crypto. And the reason why is because most crypto teams is just stocked full of devs, and they don't think about these things. They don't really approach it this way. They think, oh, we just create a cool logo and throw some memes, and hopefully people will find it cool and they'll stick.
Gabriel, you muted yourself.
Sorry, thank you. That's something I think we do really well at Ava Labs is we have a really strong marketing and business team. I'm just in awe of those people, and it's something that I think is definitely one of the strengths that we have. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. There needs to be more marketing and more sales kind of innovation. And I think we're going to see that because the blockchain is going mainstream right before our very eyes. And so there's just so many people flooding in every day that I suspect there's people who are already working on those kinds of ideas.
And one thing that I think we do exceptionally well, we're great innovators on, is event planning.
Oh, so nice. Gosh, if you guys were in Lisbon, you saw like a really, really nice party. Like Jade and her team did a really, really great job at the infrastructure at the party level. It was just very, very clean and nice. That was a seed. That was a prototype of what you're going to be seeing in Barcelona, my friends.
Oh God, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Yeah, no, it's gonna be incredible. I think that it's gonna be a fantastic mix of stuff for developers, stuff for the techies, stuff for the socialites, stuff for the VCs, stuff for the business people. Yep. There's going to be so many networking opportunities. I'm going to write a Twitter thread about best ways to take advantage of this, because I think if you're on the fence about going, 100% do it. It's going to be incredibly worth it.
AvalancheSummit.com. Go check it out right now. And yeah, do it. If you can make it, if you're even going to try and go to one event this year, and this seems practical to you, I promise, do the work that it takes right now to make this happen, because this is really, really going to be a big and a special event. This is Avalanche specific. This is the Avalanche Summit. This isn't like Blockchain Week and we're having an Avalanche party or something. No, this is an Avalanche native event that's lasting multiple days in Barcelona, absolutely beautiful city. And the schedule is looking amazing. As I mentioned, Connor and myself are going to do an hour-long Subnet show, and then I'm doing a half-an-hour presentation myself. And so, yeah, it's going to be awesome. If you can make it, make it. Trust me.
Yeah. And if you can't make it, there will be more.
Yeah,
there will be more.
That's what I was
have some FOMO.
Yeah, well, I was telling my son that my son can't make it to Europe with me. I was going to take him, and he can't make it. And I was like, instead of it being like a stress event, let's just say we'll go back, or there's other stuff, right? It ain't no stress. We'll just do something else.
Yeah. So, internally, our big takeaway was that, Lisbon was a huge success. We want to do tons more of these events. Yeah, exactly. So if Europe is not convenient for you, if the time period, if COVID.
Andretti, sorry to cut you off, but all the Andretti events. So we are obviously partners now with Andretti of Formula E, and they're doing a worldwide event, and Encode is having a hackathon at every single one of them, an Avalanche event. So that's another thing. Could go see these Formula E races. That's another event.
There's a big musician lined up, right?
A big musician for where?
I don't know. I can't reveal anything.
Okay, is this too much alpha? Sorry.
I have no idea. I actually don't know, but if I did, I wouldn't reveal anything because I don't know what's public.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's gonna be very cool. But yeah, I was gonna say shout out to Jake Dennis of the Avalanche Andretti racing team and his podium finish a week or 2 weeks ago in Doria. If you guys haven't watched Formula E, it's very cool. If you're fans of Avalanche, fans of racing, it's a fantastic set of races to check out. Very different than any kind of race I've ever seen before. It's very Mario Kart in certain ways. They have some different like boost lanes that you can drive in. It's very cool.
It's like Formula One, actually, Formula E.
It's the electric.
Yeah, it's
version. It's electric. So that's why we did the partnership with them. Green energy, high performance, that kind of thing. That's the theme. But when we met the core people in Lisbon, that was like the main people and the whole thing. And the vibe I got from them was that Formula E is the future. Like people aren't betting on the fossil cars for the future. They're betting on the Formula E car, which is basically like a supercomputer on wheels. And it's electric charged. So yeah, it's basically it's Formula One, but it's the electric version of it.
Yeah.
Damn. Is there going to be a Netflix documentary as well?
Probably.
I hope so.
Okay, so
it is funny. We're just having met these people in real life first, and then seeing them on TV. It was an interesting experience. Usually, it's the reverse. Well, usually I never meet them, but
You're sharing the dude's name, right? Didn't you get on the call with him?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had we had dinner together a few times.
But there was a dude who had your name, Connor.
Connor Daly, the other Connor Daly. There's a race car driver named Connor Daly, not in Formula E, but yeah, we have. He and I have chatted.
All right, so Cryptofish. Do you want to give a last minute thought, last minute shout out, plug anything? Pass you the mic.
Yeah, this year will be a huge year for Trader Joe. Watch out for what we're doing. Rocket Joe is the first step, so we plan to be a one-stop shop for everything in DeFi, from swapping and trading your shit coins to NFTs, launching new projects. Everything will come full circle. I think we have a fantastic team behind us. I'm so proud of them. These guys are absolute chads, and what's beautiful as well is that literally every single one of these guys have been recruited from the community. Guys who just reached out through Telegram, Discord, Twitter. I'm honestly super stoked for what's coming in store this year. This is really the time where we move past the whole fork stage, which is where we're born from, and move on to like innovating new stuff, right? This is why we're here. We're in it for the tech.
Awesome, dude. Very inspiring. Connor?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for joining us. But one thing, if you enjoyed this conversation, you should follow all of us on Twitter. So you can find me at DAS_Connor, DAS_CONNOR. Cryptofish, where can people find you?
Cryptofish X.
One word, Cryptofish X?
One word.
Got it. Okay. And Connor, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. And then you are CG Cardona.
Yeah, well, I was going to wrap it up. So yeah, I just wanted to give you last minute thought.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I'm CG Cardona, CGCARDONA. My name is Cardona. It's not Cardano.
Cardano.
Yeah, it's not. And believe it or not, Cardona is a place in Spain, and my family is from there, and it's 2 hours outside of Barcelona. And my mom is actually going to Barcelona with me, and we're going to Cardona, Spain, and spending a couple of days.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Epic. Yeah. So, all right, we'll be back next week. We got a really, really special guest next week. And so if you made it this far, you're a champion as always. And we say from Snowflake to Avalanche and through consensus to the stars. Thank you, everybody. Peace.